Bonjiv, Korja. Hi, everybody. Good evening to you if you're in this part of the world, or good morning, wherever you are. It's just lovely to host another Fireside Chat. Eimear Burke here, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. So just type in your name and let me know where you are. Hi, Lisa from Washington. Great to see you. I'm here in Kilkenny and it's lovely and bright. It's great to see these bright evenings and sunshine, that summer maybe is happening in Ireland. Hi, James from the River Lee. I take it that's Cork. Stephanie from Utah. Metcalfe from Sweden. Lovely. Hi, Catherine from Edinburgh. Shanti from Switzerland. Hi, Jamie Morgan. Lovely to see you again from Ohio. Ava from Belgium. Lovely to see you again. And Gavin from Derbyshire, and Pauline from Lancashire, Cindy, and Sherry Hawk from New York, Maxine from the Hebrides. Oh, lovely. And Valentina Chow from Glastonbury. Hi, Tara from upstate, and Sue. How are you from Northamptonshire? So Emma from Cornwall. Just lovely to see you. Hi, Mark. Another from Hereditary Bard from Ohio. Hi, John. That's lovely from Slough. Debbie. Debbie from Tipperary. Nice to see an Irish person here again. Esther from Italy, ciao. And Linda from Germany, that's lovely. And Dana from Italy again, lovely. Hi, Ali from North Yorkshire, so lovely. So let me welcome my guest tonight. And this time we go to Dartmoor, and I want to welcome Nick Gent. Nick, it's just so lovely to be here.
Lovely to be here and to see you.
So just tell us where you are and what your landscape is like.
Sure. Yeah, I live about half an hour on the outside of the edge of Dartmoor, Devon, and it's a beautiful, beautiful land here. I'm sure many people have seen pictures and such, but I live in a nice, quite wooded, forested area, surrounded by farmland. So it's yeah, it's beautiful. It's very calm, very peaceful, very quiet, which is just what I like. And yeah, it's an incredible landscape. All kinds of sacred, wonderful spaces and places to go and visit, and not too far from the sea as well, which is nice. So it's kind of right in the middle of Devon where I live. So kind of right in the middle, in the middle of nowhere, in a nice way. Yeah.
So when I first met you, which was, I think, on WhatsApp or maybe Messenger, you were living in France. So what was your landscape like there, and how does it compare to where you are now?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, it's a totally different landscape. The weather out there is the complete opposite of here. It's very, very hot there in the southwest of France.
Okay.
And, but I feel it's quite interesting actually, because I feel a lot of similarities. Maybe it's just me, but a very kind of strong presence of the ancients in southwest France. And I don't know if you know, but around that way, there's an awful lot of prehistoric caves.
Okay.
I think some of the oldest cave art in Europe is found in the caves around that region, in that area. And so yeah, it's quite similar to Devon actually. A lot of farmland, very agricultural, but then it's got these kind of wild bits which are really nice as well, where you can kind of lose yourself. And so yeah, it felt like a nice progression for me. Just I wanted to come back to the UK, and so I found myself in Devon. My dad's from Cornwall, so it feels quite homely here.
Next door.
Yeah.
So where were you brought up?
I'm from London originally. I was born in London. Lived most of my life in the southeast of England. But yeah, done a lot of traveling, been to some great places. But yeah, I'm from London originally. So city boy living in the country now. Yeah.
Very brave of you. Well, yeah. I lived in, I come from the rural area, but I lived in Dublin, which is the capital, for many, many years. And I swore I'd never go back to rural Ireland. And then I discovered Kilkenny and I moved permanently. And I just absolutely love living in the country. It's just, it's pure magic. It's nice to have a car in the country.
You absolutely need it, don't you? Yeah.
You do. Though I also have an e-bike, so I can cycle to the market, into Kilkenny city. I'm 10 kilometers from the city, so I cycle. I did today. Every Thursday, I cycle on my bike. But yes, transport is nice, and we don't have public transport in rural Ireland. It's not very good here. So, but it's just a thing to be living where I am, and I'm just looking at the evening sun shining in my garden, and it's just beautiful. So, yeah. So
I think you kind of appreciate it, don't you? I think perhaps even more in some respects when you're from the city, and then you go to live in the countryside. And I've heard a lot of people the other way around, with that if they're born and brought up in the countryside, they often love moving to the city as well. So, yeah, it's a nice kind of. Yeah.
That was me. I just thought I'd never get out of rural Ireland because I didn't have a car, and to get to the capital, and what I loved was actually the anonymity of a city, because living in a small where everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
And I remember it's just, I'm free and nobody knows what I'm doing, and it's wonderful. And then when I moved here back down to Kilkenny, and I remember the first time when I went into a shop, somebody said, "Hello, Eimear." And I was delighted that I was recognized. And I thought, actually, that is something I had missed that I didn't have in the city. And I actually like it. I'm now old enough, I don't care what people think of me. So I'm not so worried about what the neighbors think. But it was just lovely to be recognized.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And then getting a sense of being part of a community rather than living anonymously in a big, big city. So
yeah,
I get older to really appreciate the importance of community.
Yeah, I'm feeling that way, I must admit, as well, actually. And I'm quite a solitary kind of person at heart, but there's nothing quite like community, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
There's Cavan in Hines. I live on the edge of Chesterfield in the UK, a few miles from the Peak District. That's beautiful.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So, what brought you to Druidry?
Yeah, I suppose it's a journey that takes me all the way back to as young as I can remember, really. I always felt a sense of the magical, and I know as children, we you would often play magical games, and with the child imagination, isn't it? There's all of these kind of fantastical and amazing things that happen in play and just in your mind and your imagination. But yeah, I always felt, people around me would often say, "Oh yeah, but that's just a story," or "Yeah, but it's not real. Magic's not real," or so it often felt like people were kind of, especially as you grow up, isn't it? You have to you do these things, and you kind of, it's almost like it's instilled in you that well, yeah, that's what you do when you play as a child, but we don't do that now as grown-ups, kind of thing. And so yeah, I suppose for me it was born. I always found myself talking to nature, particular affinity with trees and that kind of thing. But yeah, so just this kind of this sense of opening up a conversation with the universe, with nature, and always a fascination with wizards. I used to like dressing up as a wizard, and play kind of magical games. So then, as I kind of progressed, as I grew up and started writing songs and engaging with the love of sound and with music and with just the creative arts, yeah, for me, these ideas that perhaps I had when I was younger started taking shape. And for me, with my journey with sound in particular, my entry into kind of communion with trees, with the energy of the universe, yeah, really kind of kicked off. And I found an outlet for it where I could express these kind of thoughts, these feelings, and kind of explore it through sound as well. So yeah, I very reluctantly became a member of the order. I've always had a kind of what's the word? I've never liked being joining things or feeling. I used to kind of really feed into wanting to be solitary and no, I do this all by myself. But so I joined it purposely for that reason, because I wanted to meet my own resistance to that. And yeah, and become part of a wonderful community. So for me, yeah, entering into the world of Druidry, or just, you know, this, for me, it's an everyday, it's a part of my life. So, and it feels real, like it always did. So yeah.
It's really interesting. Shanti says, magic not real, never, it's everywhere. I don't know if you're aware of, I mean, I've said this on, I think I've said it here a few times. The Irish word for magic and Druidry is the same. Driocht.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And like you, I joined the order because I didn't want to be part of a group, but I knew you could be solitary. And that was the reason I joined. Yeah. And now look, and I discovered what a wonderful community the order is, and how important it is in my life, having wanted to be on my own. I mean, it's one of these funny things.
Yeah, it's nice the way. Well, that's one thing I love about it, is the way that you can enjoy doing your own thing, but also be a part of it. And yeah, I think a lot of the time people worry about that, just in general. You know, it has to be one or the other, and it doesn't. So, yeah.
Are you a solitary, or are you part of a member of a seed group or a grove, or are you on your own?
I'm on my own. Yeah, yeah. Since we're talking about it, but yeah, it's something that I would like to do. I've thought about it. But yeah, it's something that I would like to do. Yeah, I'm definitely open to that. But
well, I think the majority of our members, you know, worldwide, you know, are solitary simply for, I suppose, geographical reasons. But anyway, there is the option. So to get back to your sound, so when did you discover your gift with sound? Because I would regard it as a gift. When did you discover that, or how did you find it? That way of expressing your creativity.
Yeah, I suppose again, when I was a child, my mum always likes to tell the story of how when I was, I don't know, 1 or 2, something crazy like that, that I would play with straws on tins and be tapping out, you know, almost kind of on the beat rhythm, so to speak. But so for me, again, like you were asking earlier on about the Druidry, with the sound as well, it definitely feels like it was something that I was kind of, I just did it naturally. But I've also had to work at it a lot, you know, and but yeah, I started playing the flute. I was classically trained when I was 6 on the flute. Yeah, I used to play in little orchestras, and that kind of thing. And
do you still play?
I definitely do. It's my first love in terms of an instrument, playing the flute. And
can you play tonight?
I don't have it with me, actually. It's in need of repair. Unfortunately it's got a key broken on it. I'm quite distraught about that. But yeah, so yeah, the journey with sound is a kind of lifelong, ever evolving journey of beauty and mystery for me. But yeah, you know, as soon as I started writing songs, that's when it really kind of evolved, from going from playing a piece of sheet music, so someone telling you what to play, and then just this kind of realizing, oh, you know, I can decide what I want to play. I can express myself like this. And that's how I found my connection with the Druidry as well, is this joy of being able to just voice and express these kind of feelings and thoughts and connections that you feel, and learn from that as you go along. So
so what do you, so just to say for our audience, our viewers, the kind of sound and what you do with your music, or how you express it.
Okay. So yeah, I've always loved, I love getting into recording. I used to do quite a lot of live work, but I really enjoy just sitting down and delving into the world, a bit like opening a book where you can kind of decide the story, if you like. And at the moment, I'm actually almost finished an album that I'm doing, working with music recorded with plants and trees, which is going to be really interesting. And so my current kind of journey is ambient experimental music mixed with folk. But yeah, I'm really loving. It's been a revelation, actually, even though I've been making music all my life, to have the musical input from other beings, from trees and plants, especially with the druidry connection. So it's you know, there's no ego with the tree that I detect or whatever. You know, it's just it's this wonderful kind of free style of creation. So what I do is I connect with the tree first, or a plant, so make a connection, develop a relationship with it, talk to it and listen, and ask it. I always ask if they would like to participate. Usually I get a kind of a very loud voice in my head going, yes please, or sometimes even no thank you. I've had one or two no thank yous.
Okay. And you listened.
Yeah, but yeah but so yeah, so I kind of what it is I connect electrodes to so they pick up the electro signals that are coming from the plants, and then that gets converted into MIDI information, so like sounds that I can record, and then so I create this kind of background of sound using the plant or the tree, and then I add my kind of based on. So it's like a conversation like we're having now. It's someone makes a sound and you listen, and then you think, okay, then I have this to say, or then I would like to say this, you know, musically, obviously. And
So you're saying you put those onto the tree?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And then that's converted into media, into.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So it is. I have a device that converts the plant or the tree's electrical signals into the sounds that I can then mix with and record and do that kind of thing. So yeah,
I know, for example, I converse with trees, but obviously in a different way to you do it. So are you able to, because I find this fascinating, Jane Myatt, who's in Canada, what a wonderful exploration with sound and connection. Are you able to communicate, I mean, speak or whatever it is, communicate with the tree and have a conversation that you make a sound of some kind, whatever that is, and the tree responds to you, and do you go back and forth, or do you let the tree start, and then you respond to the tree? Do you find that there's a two-way thing, as in back and forth, or how do you do it?
Yeah, I would say yes to all of that. Is the simple answer. I suppose the answer is just whatever I would intuitively kind of feel. So sometimes, yeah, I just let the tree do its thing and leave it open. Or sometimes what I do is I might sing to the tree or play an instrument, or maybe even some mantra or something like that.
And the tree responds then to that.
Yeah, and the interesting thing as well is that the more of a relationship or a rapport, if you like, you develop with the plant or the tree, the more, I suppose, like even like human musicians, you know, the more you kind of jam and you lock into that vibe or that groove, the easier it all becomes. But it's all very telepathic for sure. Which for me, I personally, that's how I regard human plant communication anyway, largely. I mean, obviously there's much more than that, but for me it takes place on a very kind of on a telepathic, like musicians that are well rehearsed together, they often speak of a telepathy when they're playing with one another. So for me, I just regard the tree as another musician, basically. Some of them seem
Beautiful.
to enjoy it more than others as well. It's interesting.
Because what I have done is I'm sitting beside a tree and then I sing, or the tree inspires me to sing. So it's almost like the song of the tree. I'm just fascinated that you can actually. So this is what I think the tree is saying. Okay, so I'm interpreting it, but the idea that you're actually able to translate the electromagnetic signals and make sound. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Apologies for that. I find that fascinating, and how nature can respond. I remember for 20 years, every year I went to Tanzania teaching, and I took my family. And I remember it was a few years I took my harp. I had a small harp with me, and I remember sitting one night on the veranda, and I played a riff. Now it was dark; all the birds around is asleep, and this bird responded. And then I did it again and it responded. And I did it again and it responded. And then I left it for about 10 minutes. And I came back again at it and it responded. And I was just feeling all over. And that wonderful experience that actually, and I wasn't imagining this.
No, that's right. That's right.
The bird responded. I was absolutely blown away. And I'm just fascinated with this ability to communicate like that and create music with nature. It's wonderful.
It is absolutely beautiful. And I mean, the other way I liked it. I mean, I come at it sometimes from a different angle as well. Is some of the work that I do. Well, if I go into the forest and perhaps I'm meditating with some trees, I'm sitting in the forest. Or just in meditation, wherever I might find myself to be. I have had some enjoyable experiences with what feels like receiving bits of music from the plants or the trees, like kind of plant songs, and just it was difficult for me at first, in just kind of letting go of your mind enough to relax into it, so that you can hear. So you kind of calm the chatter of your own thoughts, isn't it? Enough so that you can potentially receive, or what you perceive to, these kind of plant songs. So yeah, there's so much to explore with it all. And I think I think people have been doing these kind of experimental bits of music using electronics and plants going back to the 60s or the 70s, or perhaps even earlier. But now the technology is there, that there's a lot of, there's significant amounts of research that are taking place that are really fascinating. And so it is nice to feel part of that, or even in my own little way, just having fun and like you were saying, making music with the trees and with nature.
I've been wanting to stop you, but you're fascinating. You're getting darker and darker. I can hardly see you. Oh, can you put a light on? Oh, now we have better. Some people are saying that your volume is low. I hear you perfectly. Okay. Some people find I'm too loud and you're too quiet, and others are okay with it. So
I'll put the microphone a little closer.
Okay. So for those who found a difference, can you just type in whether it's improved? So
hopefully that's better.
Okay, somebody, Eimear, she's reading a book. This is just interesting around connection. Reading the Oak Papers right now, James Canton, a long-term relationship with a single 800-year-old oak tree. Wonderful book about the tree's personality and energy. Do you have?
That sounds great.
Are there particular trees? Like, do you go back to the same trees? Do you like to say, okay, I know I do great work with this tree and this other tree doesn't, or what do you do?
Okay, yeah, there was well, one of the tracks that I'm about to release, put out, is it's an oak tree,
Okay.
that I've become really good friends with. It's just not far. It's about 2 minutes walk from my house, and I haven't even finished it yet. But it's a 20-minute piece. But yeah, it's taken me almost 6 months of working and recording different parts for it. So yeah, I had to go back again and again, and it's interesting actually when I mentioned about asking the permission of the tree or the plant
Yes.
before I got into it. And so there'd be some times where I wanted to record. I was in the mood for it, and I was thinking, right, okay, I can hear the music. I'm like, let's do this. I go along and set everything up, but I didn't bother asking or checking. And sometimes the device just doesn't actually even respond, which is quite interesting. It says bad contact, which I find, on the device on the machine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, that's another interesting dynamic where, again, I have found that the more that you develop a relationship, the more you talk and also listen, not just talking, obviously, but listening. Yeah, it makes a big difference. So yeah, there are quite some of the plants that I've worked with have just been, I just kind of heard that it was available, it wanted to make music with me or whatever, and it just happened, and we did it in one afternoon. And then, like I said, with the oak tree, with some of these other ones, an ongoing process. Yeah.
Okay. Are you familiar with Alex Metcalfe's work? This is Brian. He says he records the sound of inside the tree, and you can also listen live with devices he's made, and you can hear all sorts of amazing sounds and rhythms.
Oh,
I don't know if.
I haven't heard of. No, I haven't heard of his work actually. I'll
And
have to check that.
she's put up treelistening.co.uk.
Oh, fabulous.
So it's okay. So somebody says crystal oak. We have an oak tree outside our back door, and I'm trying to work with. Our backyard has many different types of trees. It's a work in progress, and it's an interesting one because around relationship, because I can't see why trees are any different to well, sorry, it's a bit arrogant of me to think why trees are any different to humans, but that like humans, we have relationships with some and not so others, and we have resonances with people and not with others. And I it's the same. And like trees will resonate with you, and others will not want you to engage with them. That it's a really, really lovely one. Jolene says definitely different vibes with different trees, like rolls with us, granddad, mother vibrations, etc. Joke vibes, supportive, loving, cleansing, magical. I think it's just lovely to hear, to see the comments from the viewers in terms of their relationship with trees.
Yeah. And I suppose the kind of the other aspects that I've enjoyed with the tree is kind of asking it, to kind of, well, can you play as something that's healing? So perhaps working with some of the folklore, the tree lore aspects, or the medicinal properties, if it's a medicinal plant, for example. So it's been quite interesting. I'm still learning lots about it, lots and lots left to learn, obviously. But some of the bits that I have learned, or that I have understood about the medicinal properties as well, it's quite interesting how the sounds can work with that as well. And I like the idea of, a particular herbal medicine or a medicinal plant, for example, producing with that intentionality, kind of a healing piece of music, say, to help people with inflammation, for example, or something. I haven't tried this yet, but I would like to. And then maybe even make a herbal preparation. So you've got the connection, you've got the personal connection with the plant, you've got the sounds made with the plant, and then you're ingesting the plant as well. And I think that would be really interesting.
Let me know how that goes. I think that's fascinating, because it's like there are so many ways of connection, and the sound, energetic, and then the actual physical, the actual ingestion of the herb.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Do you know it's such a huge field. I mean, it's and certainly worthy of exploration. So I look forward to reading your books on this. So I don't know how long you're in the order, and how has Druidry supported you in your life?
Lovely question. I think it's helped in numberless ways. But if I had to pick some highlights, definitely a deepening understanding of the nature, interconnection, communication with other people, inner communication in myself. One of the things that I found I really enjoyed was some of the light body work, and the working with the energy body, and I've been doing energy work since I was in my teens. I started doing qigong and that kind of thing, but I always wanted to kind of fuse into something a bit more, I don't know, Druidry flavored, if you like, for want of a better phrase. So I found, beginning with the bardic work, and just working through the course, the OBOD course. I just love it. It's so it's really helped me kind of open up and trust my intuition more. Always with a healthy, hopefully, or as healthy a dose of discernment as I can muster, because it's not necessarily to be trusted blindly. Intuition, but but that for me was a big one. Feeling like it's okay to just for you to, because I think so many people do feel like how we do collectively about about nature and the relationship with trees, and so it's so nice that it's been so nice for me to kind of open up into that and just feel free to explore it with some helpful kind of guidelines and all of that.
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. When I know you're not on your own, you were born in London or brought up in London, and so much of our Druidry, we honor the ancestors. We recognize, that we are future ancestors. How do you, as a Druid, see yourself as a future ancestor, or in terms of your responsibility, or how you see your role as a future ancestor?
I suppose I feel very much like it's a collective kind of journey. I suppose I don't give that much thought to my own kind of individual kind of impact, or but I suppose it's just, if there's one thing that I would love to inspire, it's to have more people around the world connecting with the rest of the world. So getting out of our human construct as much as we can, or kind of expanding our human construct to much more include connection with the universe, with our world, with all the other beings that we share this space with. And so that I would say would be something that I would love to see kind of, grow more and more into the future. I think it's something we really need right now. I mean, the world is an absolute mess in many respects. There's a lot of beauty, a lot of deep beauty going on. But yeah, you know, to heal the damage that we've been doing to the planet, I think that's a great way forward. Yeah, the path of Druidry, the connection with nature, for me is is the number one of the most important things we can do going forward.
And you're also a teacher, aren't you? I mean, do you teach? Do you teach? I know you. Do you teach qigong, or you teach sound meditation? Is this something you teach? As I say, spread this this awareness, or these exercises or techniques that people can do.
Yeah, I teach groups and one-to-one people online. I haven't been doing it since with all of the pandemic. Physically with people, but yeah, I teach. And I mean, I like to, it's not just the sound, it's mainly the sounds. I'm very interested in Tibetan Buddhism, Vajrayana, certain tantric Buddhism, and in particular the use of mantra, so you know, sacred sounds, chants, that kind of thing. So that's my main speciality is using the instrument of the voice for transformation. And yeah, I do include energy for various different energy practices. There's one that I'm trying to, or I've been working on for a little while, which is I always wanted to come up with my own series of kind of energetic practices, because it's you know, it's one thing to learn. It's great to learn from others, obviously, and beautiful, but I've always kind of felt this desire to kind of create my own healing system, using kind of sounds and like mudras, like energetic gestures inspired by the trees.
Okay.
So a kind of a kind of Druidry based qigong, if you like, or my own version of that.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I've only done about three trees currently. There are 2 in the pipeline, but when I moved from France, I lost connection with those particular trees, you know, in the physical sense. So I've kind of put it to one side, but that's what I do. Yeah, I just do general healing work, sound healing, that kind of thing. Yeah.
We talked about you doing a chant. Given that you're talking about sound healing, would you like to try now? Hopefully the sound will be okay.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, so we could well, I thought, okay, well, something quite nice and a really simple basic sound would be to use the seed syllable sound of ah, just an a, like that. And in the Tibetan system, it's connected with the space element. So for me, yeah, the sound is about, you know, when we relax into a space or a place, we're like, when we sit in a comfortable chair, it's like and also, so it's an opening of space sounds, so it creates spaciousness, but it also kind of opens the heart, because in a lot of cultures and languages, you know, that's beautiful. So it's a kind of a heart, a loving sound as well. So that's the idea behind the sound is for creating spaciousness through which the heart can kind of grow. And so yeah, I'll if people want to feel like joining in, I'll just it's nice to kind of visualize that as you're making the sound. So you kind of breathe in, feel with the breath the kind of sense of the heart, and in the mind a sense of spaciousness kind of opening, and then that's expressed with the sound as you exhale. All right.
That is so beautiful, and something very, very. I could really feel. Oh God, that was like a balm. And then when you finished at the very end, then there's this loud silence. When you've chanted or there's something, you hear that beautiful silence, and then the bird song. I don't know if our viewers can
Right.
can hear the bird song. It was like I became so much more aware of the birds in your
Yeah, I
coming in.
forget they're there half the time. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. That was just beautiful. Just
Thank you. Well, that's nice. I mean, it's a beautiful sound, and something so simple as just making a vowel sound like that can like it sounds like you felt, and I certainly feel it when I make it. It does create an opening, especially if you combine that with the intentionality of that's what you're visualizing it as you're making the sound, so it creates a manifestation, definitely. Yeah.
and I mean, it's beautiful, even in this medium, that it still comes across, and that was just so lovely to hear that, because you said you do sound healing online, yeah, or do you do it online?
Yeah. I've found, for me, I mean, it's more fun, it's more enjoyable to do it with people, having physical connection with people. But I mean, in my humble understandings, I don't see distance as a barrier for the flow of energy. So yeah, I think if you're feeling it, you're able to send it through down the wire, if you like. Definitely, yeah.
Philip has shot across. That was so comforting. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, and it was. I could feel that. It was just absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. No, I'm glad. If I just enjoy doing it, so if it helps people in any way, then then that's perfect.
Lovely. One question I ask: do you have a daily practice? And I imagine yes, you do. But anyway, what kind of a daily practice do you have?
It varies. It depends on how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
What I did, I can be quite chaotic. I'm very kind of spontaneous, so I find discipline in all its forms difficult. Mm-hmm. So I kind of, a little while back, I thought, well, as I learn new things as well and practice them, you often find, oh yeah, I want to do that. Oh, and I want to do this, and then before you know it, you've got like a whole bank of stuff that then starts to become almost not stressful, but kind of, well, yeah, but how do I fit all of this in? So I write out a list for a daily practice with some kind of options where I can alternate. But the main ones, I do various different mantra. There's one of my favorite practices actually is the 5 from the Tibetan system, which it's the 5 elements, mudra and mantra. So you have a sound, which is the first one, funny enough, for the space element, and then you have energetic gestures. So you know, you bring the physical body into it as well, which for me is a key. You know, having kind of spiritual practices that are all kind of etheric and mystical is lovely and beautiful, but for me, the real magic is where we bring it into the physical body as well, and into this physical kind of life. And you know, so I find I love to do the 5 elements. They're called the 5 element seed syllables. So there's 5 sounds for each element, 5 gestures. So I do that preferably, if I can, when I go out for a walk. So space, well, that's a nice easy one, but water is lovely next to a stream or a river, or even in the bath, shower, you know, any kind of water connection, drinking tea. Yeah, so the thing I like about that is it makes me want to go out and kind of connect with the elements to do that. You know, it's not necessary, you can do it in your living room or whatever, but so that's one of my favorite ones. And I like to visit the inner grove. Don't necessarily do it in my inner grove, you know, every day. And do various kind of bits of energy work with the work that I've done, or the kind of the practices that I have to do with Tibetan Buddhism and the Bon tradition as well. Some of them are quite shamanic as well. So yeah, there's an interesting correlation between some of the things that I can well, in the Tibetan tradition, they call them terma, or like treasures. So you can discover bits of information or songs and this kind of thing. And then I like to try and see how that kind of weaves and interconnects with the physical world as well. So there's some quite interesting, as I'm sure you've experienced yourself, some really beautiful kind of synchronicities between that kind of that inner exploration and the outer kind of that connection. So yeah, so I like to do as much energy work. I've always been fascinated in the energy body since I got into doing qigong. I was lucky at my school. The PE teacher, the physical education teacher, was a qigong master himself. He'd spent some time in China. He was into martial arts, but his main thing was he loved doing the energy work. So I learned while I was at school. You know, I got into doing that. So but it's something that requires, you know, practice. You can get really good at it at one time, but if you just stop doing it, so yeah. So again,
slip.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes life just takes over, and you don't find the time, or you don't feel inclined to do it. But for me, there's always like this kind of definite desire to work with the energy body as much as possible. I find it so enjoyable and exciting to kind of, yeah. So yeah, that's mainly what I do.
I think many people, you know, who are listening will identify with that too. And as Druids, that you know, that inner and outer connection, how important that is. And you know, with the teachings that we are encouraged to do that.
Yeah.
That's it's what's been your greatest achievement in your life?
Cool. I don't know if I could. Well, becoming a parent was, I don't know if I would call that an achievement necessarily, but that's definitely perhaps the thing that I'm the most happy about, you know, that having 2 wonderful children. But outside of that, probably on a personal level, just putting together my debut album that I did back in 2014, which when I was going through quite a difficult time in my life. I was going through a divorce, actually, as it goes, and you know, working full time in an office job, doing the 9 to 5 thing with young children, And but I managed to avert myself away from a kind of a path of self-destruction, and kind of put it into doing this thing that I really wanted to do. Ever since I was a teenager, I wanted to do an album of my songs and that kind of thing. So yeah, I did it entirely online, and there were about 30 different people from around this is I suppose back in 2014. Online music making wasn't much of a thing, so yeah, that was a real achievement for me, you know, putting that together. 19 track. It took me almost 4 years to do it as well. I almost gave up quite a few times.
So you completed it in 2014. Does that mean you started it in 2010? And you did all your recording online?
Yeah, so I recorded the basic tracks myself. I laid down whatever I could, and then I would go online and go in search. Quite intuitively, actually, were the best ways that it seemed to happen. You know, if I could hear a particular sound or a particular instrument, I'd go in search of, and just allowing yourself to kind of find intuitively, you know, a cello player, for example. And that was another kind of thing that kind of slowly got me moving towards Druidry and this kind of, these beautiful kind of synchronicities, just realizing the power of just letting go and just allowing yourself to find your way, and to connect and to do that as a way of connecting and with others, not just kind of your own achievements, but as a way of communication as well. So yeah, so I'd connect with someone, ask them, you know, tell them about the project and say, you know, I can't pay. Well, that was the other thing. I couldn't pay anyone. I didn't have any money. So trying to find people, it was wonderful, actually. It was a really kind of, it really restored my belief in humanity as well as on that kind of creative level anyway. It's just the amount of people that were actually up for just playing on it, knowing that they were never going to get paid.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were skint like I was as well, you know, so it wasn't even necessarily like a, you know, they had to get beyond their any kind of reluctance. And but yeah, so people would record things, send them back to me, I'll download it and then mix it, produce it and mix it. And yeah, it was so much fun, but it taught me a lot, on all kinds of levels. So that was definitely an achievement for me.
And you've recorded the Awen, haven't you?
I did a recording of it. Yeah.
Is that available for people to hear? I know I have it someplace, but that is available.
Yeah, it's
so maybe afterwards put it into the chat for people to might want to hear it.
Yeah, all of the music I got around the kind of time that I was doing my debut as well, the debut album, was around the kind of time where the music industry started changing in line with the internet, basically. And people were torrenting music, and I've always liked the idea of sharing things freely. Anyway, so to cut long story short, I've from the word go, I've been involved in the Creative Commons licensing for so all of the music that I release is free to download and to use non-commercially. If people want to use it commercially, they buy a license, but it's not very much. I mean, it depends on the project, but yeah. So it's almost like I like to think of it as like a kind of an honesty box business model, almost, you know, if you like. So, you know, if people want to buy it, lovely, you know, they can. But if people like it, but they don't want to buy it or they can't afford to buy it, then they can still have it anyway. And I love that personally. It works beautifully for me in terms of, so yeah, it's freely. You can just type in Awen, the Mind Orchestra, into your internet search engine, and usually one of the first things that pops up is is one of the free download sites. It's called the Free Music Archive is one of them. That's quite a popular one. So yeah, anyone can download it. But of course, you know, if people do want to buy it, then they can. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing that recording. Actually, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, wonderful. What's been your biggest challenge that you've overcome in your life?
Biggest challenge.
You've gone dark again. I don't know why, because obviously it's getting slowly darker and darker.
I can put another light.
Perfect. Lovely.
There we go. Into challenge. Okay. Challenge.
Overcome.
Yeah. I would say definitely dealing with my own anger, so negative emotion. I went through a period, I don't know, in my kind of mid 20s to kind of up to about 31, something like that. Yeah, getting divorced was a part of that. That was a difficult time in itself, especially with children involved. It's always difficult anyway, isn't it? But yeah, it wasn't just because of that. I think, you know, that had the potential of being an excuse. And I think with the particularly with anger, I think that's something that I do, or used to do a lot anyway, was kind of finding an excuse for it. Oh, well, it's because someone said this. It's because, you know, that's going on in the world. That makes me angry. It's almost like outsourcing the responsibility for my own emotions on everything else but me.
Yes.
And then that just makes you more angry and more. So yeah, I'd say that was. It's not like I you know, of course I can still become angry at times, but I've managed to get it to a kind of level where I don't spend very much time angry anymore, and it's such joy. And so yeah, so funny that, but yeah, you know, dealing with that. So yeah, I went through a period of life where, you know, and I kind of at times would notice myself doing it or being that. Quite often, you know, if other people would tell me, you know, Nick, you're being angry, or, you know, sort it out, or whatever it might be. But I think, you know, it's almost like a bit of a trap where you can get caught in these negative emotions. It's like a whirlwind, so it's very difficult to get out of, isn't it?
It can be a very familiar pattern, so the familiarity keeps you stuck in it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it won't let you down. It stays with you.
Yeah. So that for me was a particular challenge, was getting through that part of my life.
How did you do that? What did you do to help you deal with it? Did you go for therapy, or did you go to a healer, or what did you do, or just give yourself a good talk to?
Well, I'd say three things really helped. Number one, I did have some sessions which I had great resistance to with a therapist. That helped a lot, talking about things. So, you know, opening up and talking. Spending more time in the forest. Number two, definitely. I actually, while I was working in the office, I was actually sleeping in my car, and or I'd go and sleep in the forest. And I used to. Luckily, there was a swimming bath complex near to where I work, so I would go in there, pay to go swimming in the morning before work, change my clothes, have a shower, and then go to work. So I spent a lot of time in the forest around that kind of time. Which was great. But the main thing was mantra, was sound, and that's what got me back into doing the mantra practice, and working with sounds. It kind of you know, I'm quite naturally skeptical as it goes, or I certainly used to be a lot more so. And even though I've been a musician all my life, you know, I was like, well, you know, why would saying a phrase or a sound over and over again, why on earth would, how's that going to help me? Where's the proof?
Yeah,
You know,
been there.
Especially in someone else's language, from someone else's culture. Certainly in this lifetime for me, you know, that was another one. It's like, well, yeah, but you're English, Nick. You're not Tibetan. You know, you're not da 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 da. But anyway, I pushed through that, and yeah, I'd say practicing with the mantra, so using sounds, for me was that was utter transformation, really, for all of those things. It continues to be so.
Yeah, because Mikhail, how does one get rid of anger? And he said he's a short fuse. I understand that one, Michael or Mikhail. It's really interesting that you've actually, you know, you talk about, okay, you did go for some therapy sessions, but and that's what I do for a living, and I've spent years in therapy, and it was really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Except you need that for the rest of your life. Well, some people do, but that's not for me. You know, I've done that now. But the idea of having a sound practice like mantras and how important they are for me, and you talk about the woods. I've gone to the woods angry, frustrated, feeling toxic or whatever it is, just wired. And I can ask the to help me, and I come out and I feel, oh my God, I have let go. So much crap. And when you think of, you know, we breathe out carbon dioxide and the trees breathe it in. And, you know, that notion of trees physically, you know, cleaning the air. But actually it means more than that it can actually really, really help clear loads of crappy stuff that's within ourselves. And
yeah, totally.
And you say, well, how is chanting a mantra in a different language? Or you say to somebody, go for a walk on the trees. Well, how's it going to be in the woods going to help me? You do it, and you actually discover it. Because I know when first doing this thing and focusing on my breath or my body in the moment, I kind of go, oh God, I hate this. How is this going to help me? Focusing on my breath, you know, breathing in, breathing out, or being aware of my body in the chair. And I did it. I was told to do it, you know, in a workshop or something. Here we go again. And then suddenly penny drops and I get it. And I don't want to stop this. This is just pure. It's magic, you know, to be focusing, whatever it is, your breath, being with the tree, mantra. And then suddenly you get it. And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
It's and then you keep doing it because that actually maintains you in a it's still, I mean, obviously you have to express angry, but it's to break that pattern or that cycle, because anger is good, you know, anger isn't bad. No. It's when it controls us, then we have a difficulty. But you know, anger can be a good motivator, you know.
Yeah.
It's just when you become
and being comfortable with yourself, including the ways, and you know, it's not just about focusing on what you're really good at or what's great or obviously wonderful. Not creating separation, really, isn't it? Just accepting all of yourself. And I mean, that's the thing I loved about, you know, like you were saying, when you're in the forest, and for you know, for me, you know, like we talked about with spiritual practice and all of that kind of thing, for me, one of the most integral things, especially with anger, is just kind of rooting yourself, which is something that the tree does so beautifully, is kind of using the earth itself to kind of, to help you process and to, and obviously to bring that kind of energetic balance, which has a physical knock-on effect as well. Yeah.
It's, I know when I was doing my shamanic work, working with crystals to extract, you know, unwanted energies, and then putting those into the earth to be transmuted and cleansed, and then leaving them for so many weeks to be able to take it out. That cleansing quality of the earth and of trees. You know, when we think of the earth and the nutrients it offers, you know, the plants, but also its ability to to cleanse, and or even if you lie on the earth and actually just say, just take this, and the power of that, it's absolutely. And as Druids, we have that. It's just out there. Well, actually, the earth is here wherever we are, but I think you can do it inside, but because we are always on the earth, but to be able to go out and lie on it, or to feel the bark of a tree, or sit with the tree back or lie on the earth, is just pure magic. And it's wonderful that we have that, a resource that we have at our
totally. I've I don't know, I'm sure you've heard of it. I don't know much about it, but I've always kind of sensed or felt it. But there's been some quite interesting research with this kind of grounding of energy by just, like you were saying, by walking on the earth. And you can do it inside, can't you? But sometimes if you have concrete or material in the way, can lessen the impact. But it's something we've always got access to, like you say, definitely. It
was interesting on tardigrade. One of the biggest challenge I had was working with the earth element, which is the first one you work with, and I was really stuck. And then I was in a psychology workshop, and we were asked something clicked. We were asked to connect with the earth, and I got it. And then after that, I was away. I was able to do it. But there was something blocking me. And then once I had that door opened, or been given that key, whatever it is, I was able to flow. And that connection with the earth is just so magical. Yeah.
No, definitely. I often, one of the ways that I when I do healing work with people, and I think that's quite common actually, is people, more often than not, out of all of the elements, the one that I find that people struggle with the most is often the earth element. And I often like to liken it with when we talk about the energy body, and when a plug socket is safe, for example, when the electric, it has to be earthed to be safe and to be grounded, and to create that kind of balanced connection, if you like, that's beneficial, so that we can use it safely. And for me, it's I like that kind of analogy with our energy body, in that if we're earthed, we're grounded, then the energy is really good and balanced.
Yeah. And it's, and I think when you're grounded, and I think as Druids, I mean, it being a very earth-based spiritual path keeps us grounded. For many years, I was up in the air, and I wanted to be up there, floating around. But once I managed to get my roots here, that actually it's one of the safest places from which to fly, because it's a wonderful anchor. And I find, because I feel grounded, I can be able more to count my blessings and to be aware of what I'm grateful for. So I suppose my question is, what is it that you're grateful for?
I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for the elements. I love the elements. I'm grateful. I love life. I love being alive in it. I love the experience of the joy of being alive, the joy of being able to create, communicate, like all of these things that we've been talking about, and that we all enjoy together, and we all. So that's probably one of the, just a kind of overriding gratefulness, appreciation. That's probably the first thing that comes to mind. The rich ability that we have to have this wonderful experience, and how we can learn from that and help each other. So I that's something feel very grateful for, I suppose. Yeah.
And what is it that brings you joy?
Love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unconditional love, or certainly trying to flow with that as best as possible. That for me, the more I find myself doing that and being in that space, which obviously is not a constant thing, but the more time that I spend in that, the more blissful, you know, the more time I spend feeling happy, blissful, joyous, and you know, to the point where life does start to become a celebration of all of those things, like a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wonderful.
A beautiful orchestra, the orchestra of life. And I mean, that's kind of that's why I called my artist name, you know, the Mind Orchestras, because for me, you know, we're walking orchestras, and we're all playing our own songs, and we're listening to other people's songs, which could be your voice or my voice or people listening, you know, and it's the music of the universe. And that's kind of how I see it, really.
Wonderful. What was the most reckless thing you've ever done?
The most reckless thing? Oh, reckless. You know, I suppose there'd be quite a few things that could be termed as reckless. I don't know. I suppose when I was a lot younger, I did get into doing various different drugs, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Quite reckless with that. I don't know. I think when you get yourself in any kind of, doesn't have to be drugs, could be anything. You know, when you get yourself into a kind of space where you're behaving recklessly, yeah, it kind of leaves you open to experiences that you know you're not necessarily proud of. But I don't know. I wouldn't look back and think on any part of my life so far as particularly reckless. I've made I've made plenty of mistakes that could be viewed as reckless. But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting. You kind of caught me out there. There's nothing really you know, in all honesty, there's nothing that really massively pops through in answer to that. Yeah, if I think of something, I'll maybe go, oh yeah, you know. But
because I think it's very relative, because what's reckless for you may not be reckless for me, or you make a choice that looks like, but you know it's the right thing to do for you, but it does involve risk, and that. And the thing is, we need to take risks, because if we don't risk, we don't experience. You know, we narrow our lives. But it's that, I think that balance between taking the risk and not, you know, putting yourself. In
yeah.
Jane says reckless is relative. It is, absolutely. I mean, you take applying for a job, or take a risk choosing a career or a course, whatever.
I do quite enjoy, you know, the adventure of taking risk, no matter what it might be, as long as it's, you know, safe and balanced as much as it can be. But yeah, I think there's a kind of joy in enjoying not being too, having a kind of, I mean, I can be quite, for example, I like to be reckless when I'm making music. I don't like to be
contained.
Bound. Yeah.
So, do you have any regrets?
Regrets? Not really. There's a few aspects of a few choices I've made thus far that, could have easily and definitely been better. They could be, again, like we were saying with the recklessness, you know, they could be viewed as a form of regret. but only if they're played again and again, the kind of, because it's kind of been and gone. So unless I'm kind of referring back to that moment and going, oh well, why didn't I do that, and I could have done, I like to live as much as I can. I don't always manage to do it, but I like to live as much as I can in the present. So regret is no, I'm lucky to say I don't feel too many regrets so far. Made plenty of mistakes, but yeah, not regret is not something I try and associate with too much.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think mistakes are wonderful. They can be painful, but you know, it's around the learning. And if you have a regret, then if there's a way of making amends for that, or remedying it in some way, and if not, then go. I think that's really, really important. Is there anything you would change about your life now?
No.
That's a great place to be.
No, not at all. No, it's taken a lot of it's been a difficult long road so far to kind of open myself up enough to my own experience and to the experiences for me to kind of, and to create, you know, a series of alignments where being able to say and answer in that kind of way is truthful or possible for me. But no, I wouldn't want to change anything. You know, in terms of, well, I say that, and yet I constantly am open to change. I constantly want to change. I constantly want to. So I mean, and we're changing all the time anyway. So, but yeah, no.
Yes, I mean, there's change occurring. I suppose the question, and we're evolving in terms of our lives.
Yeah,
and things happen. I suppose the question was, you know, is there, if you could, would you change it? And you've said no. But you know,
no.
You're on the whatever trajectory you're on. You're actually happy with that.
Yeah, it feels like a good alignment to me. I feel, yeah, like I'm doing what I would like to be doing. What I suppose that the kind of the real barometer is the heart for me. It's that, does it feel true to the heart? You know, do you feel genuine in yourself, whole enough in yourself to be able to answer in such a way? So yeah, I feel lucky to be able to say yeah.
One concern you have about the modern world. You said it was in a bad place earlier. I can't remember, that wasn't the exact phrase, but I think that's what you meant. So
it was something like that.
Yeah.
One thing that deeply worries me is nanotechnology and the potential. Yeah, you know, nanotechnology use the dangerous or destructive uses for artificial intelligence, which, you know, nanotechnology is here. It's not going to go away. It's only going to be used more and more. And you know, I think we're not that far away from entering into, you know, the next stage of technological advancement. I don't think is that far around the corner from where we're at. Before I went to live in France, I worked for a company where, you know, it was a publishing company. So my job was to research people that was going in the magazines, that they were kind of technological or business minded magazines. So I spent quite a bit of time researching the latest technologies in various different sectors. And I was, you know, this, when you go digging, when you go looking, and you actually, and by that I mean just looking in detail at company websites, just that alone, you know, I did at the time come, and this is what, about six years ago now, was amazed that, you know, realizing the amount of work that was taking place that I had no idea about in terms of technology, and how a lot of it isn't in the news, you know, the stuff that's actually going on. And obviously that's just the commercial side of it. There's, you know, there's the whole hidden side of it that none of us, or very few of us, get to see, which is probably even beyond that. So yeah, for me, that's a particularly worrying about nature, worrying about, you know, how humanity can make mistakes or do destructive things to nature. I think nanotechnology for me, yeah, it really, because of how small the problem can be and how widespread it can become, you know, a bit like with
okay, I don't know if everybody understands what nanotechnology is. I kind of half don't and fully don't. And how does that manifest now? So if you're looking at, sorry, just Poppy asked, can Nick give us some example of what he saw? Or what exactly are you talking about?
Well, all right. As a brief example, for example, like one of them was a military supplier, and that's one of the reasons why I left the job. I didn't like researching and looking up these kind of things. But anyway, there were companies, and this is a few years ago now, that were developing. So nanotechnology, I'm no expert, but you know, at all. I'm not very scientific, but you know, these are things that are incredibly small. So they were having things like self-repairing planes. So say if a wing gets damaged, they're creating these technologies where the wing can actually repair itself using nanites, and obviously weaponized. So miniature, you know, we're talking about a swarm of. Sounds like I'm talking about apocalyptic things, but you know, these are very real dangers and things that as a druid, as someone that loves and cares about our planet, these kind of technologies being misused worries me, is one thing that definitely worries me about the future. How that can be utilized in agriculture. I mean, you know, we've already seen that some of the problems with GM crops, this kind of thing, with genetic modification. But when we start thinking about nanotechnology, there's too much to say about it really but for me, that's it in a nutshell. Is that's one of my biggest concerns.
It's, you know, it strikes me with all the scientific advances that it comes with it, a huge amount of hubris that, we can invent this and then we can do that. Isn't it wonderful? I mean, just when you think of the platform that we're using now, and that feel so blessed that we have this technology during a time of pandemic, because had this been 30 years ago, how more isolated we would be in time of pandemic. Actually, there probably wouldn't have been there wouldn't have been a lockdown, because we wouldn't have been, the word wouldn't have gotten out easily, I think. But there's like, okay, we can mess up. Oh no, we'll just develop another thing, and then we can we can patch it up. I've seen this. I used to be a nurse, so you know, looking after patients with a particular chronic condition. So they're given X treatment that has certain side effects. No, we'll give another drug to counteract the side effects, and that constant playing catch up and forgetting that actually, hold on a second, whoa, put a stop to this. So, so given that this is a big concern, what gives you hope?
Lots of things give me hope. The better side of human community gives me hope. So, you know, the more people, I mean, it's one thing that I love about the internet, like you were just saying, you know, the ability for us to come together. And okay, you know, in some ways it creates a bit of physical separation. Maybe people are spending more time online instead of hanging out physically or whatever. But that aside, I see the ability for people to come together, to make a different choice. And I mean, and that for me is one of the many beauties and the abilities that we all have, and collectively that has the potential to become really powerful. So our little community you know, Druidry community, but the whole community. So yeah, I feel a great deal of hope. I think more so than ever before, certainly in my lifetime, you know, I see more and more people agreeing with the way forward, agreeing with, or enough of a way forward to make it viable. You know, new systems of new focuses, new attitudes, you know, where we put happiness and wellness above profit, where we put the well-being of the planet. And yeah, you know, that gives me a lot of hope, because I see that as totally doable, totally possible.
Because I agree with you, and I think when you look at the level of destruction, but you know, with that there's a huge amount of awareness, and much more awareness, because of all this technology, because of communication, that hopefully, you know, that the level of awareness continues to grow, and that people can recognize that we actually have choices.
Yeah.
Somebody says, Mikhail, the pandemic has been rough and we have seen the horrible side of humans, but we've also seen a lot of love and compassion. Absolutely. And, you know, through collaboration, cooperation, acts of kindness, that we can actually come through this, rather than always that notion that we must be competing and that the whole world will only survive through competition. It doesn't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Collaboration, connection.
Are you a pacifist? Or is there a time when you would fight back? Or a situation?
Wow, that's a great question. I believe, I do believe unconditional love and compassion should be at the core of everything that we try and do. Well, certainly that's how I try to live my life. As particularly interested in Buddhism, is a big part of my journey as well, and that's definitely at the core of that journey too. In terms of would I fight back, I could see a reality where there's a certain, there might arise in my mind the necessity to fight back, albeit I don't know, the more time I spend not in that kind of angry, fighty kind of space, that the more it does, the more it does. But I don't know, it would depend on the situation. If my country was invaded, or people were trying to hurt my family, then yeah, I would defend, perhaps even friends. I mean, but that's how it goes, isn't it? That's how we all get drawn into it all. But yeah, I wouldn't honestly be able to say that I would never take up arms. But it's not. It would only be in the most extreme cases, and extremely reluctantly. And I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't. Thankfully, I've never been in that position.
And hopefully not. Is there anything you won't compromise on? Like, what in your life is not negotiable? You strike me as very reasonable. So
well, that's really kind of you. I try to be.
So what is, you say, like, this is my bottom line, I do not negotiate on this? Is there anything, in your life, or what value have you that you will not negotiate, that you won't compromise on?
No, I'd like to. Well, no, it's not. I'd like to. I actually feel always able to negotiate. I don't want to have bottom lines where I go, you've crossed my line. What is that line anyway? I understand, obviously, interpersonal dynamics, behaviors. We do need boundaries and this kind of thing. But in terms of my mind, in terms of my conduct, I do my best to not cross other people's lines or boundaries. But yeah, in terms of my own kind of perspective, my own attitude, no, I'm always open to negotiate. I don't ever want to sit in the space where I'm like, no, not talking to you, not listening, because that's just shutting myself off. So yeah, I suppose that's my simple answer is no, you know, I've gone through various different periods of my life where I've been incredibly judgmental, and yeah, it ties in with the anger, but not just the anger, you know, kind of judging other people, how they talk, how they think. And it for me, it's all kind of wrapped up in that. It's so, particularly in my spiritual journey, in my path, working with the mantra, and as I've developed this, I have an aversion to that rigidity. I want to be, you know, I want to be flowing and open, because I think that's the answer. I think being open and flowing, yeah, like the water, like
the river,
the wind, yeah, like the earth, exactly. You know, and like a river, you know, you stick a dam and it just bursts its banks and just flow somewhere else, and that's how I want to be with my own mental perspectives and attitudes as much as I can. It doesn't always happen, obviously, but that's my perspective on that.
Yes, yeah. Shanti says, when we judge others, we're often judging ourselves even more.
Yeah, totally. I would agree with that. Which I think sometimes people confuse that with having an opinion. Oh, I'm not allowed to express. And for me, that you can have an opinion on something, but still kind of approach it with this meandering or this flowing kind of aspect. Yeah.
I mean, having preferences doesn't mean you're judgmental. So I prefer dark chocolate, like white chocolate, but I don't condemn anybody, or I don't think less of somebody. Yeah. You know, it's that, like, I have preferences. It doesn't necessarily mean judgment, as in there's a judgment there, but not in a negative way. Is there maybe a discernment, and we discern differently. We're coming to the end, and what I would like, one question I ask everybody is, what is your favorite festival in the Wheel of the Year?
Ooh, probably. I don't know. I really like winter. The beginning of winter. I
Samhain?
really like. Yeah, I really. For me, it's even though it's not necessarily if I have a favorite season, I wouldn't describe, you know, the winter perhaps as my favorite. But there's something I really like about this kind of entering into, well, this, you know, that feeling of transformation, of entering into, of the process of renewal, of coming into the winter and before we begin again. And I find it quite hard to answer that one, because, well, like the wheel, you know, we're going round it, isn't it? You know, and of all of the points are relevant for us all. But yeah, that's one for me that sticks out. That's a particular favorite. I don't know why necessarily. It just, I tend to kind of remember it and go, oh yeah, I really like this aspect, you know, while I'm in it, and then forget about it for some of the other bits of the year. Yeah.
It's funny. I asked that question, and most people prefer Samhain. Right. I often like the one I'm in. But yeah, Samhain is also a magical thing. Jane Myatt says, I judge you, Eimear, for your chocolate choices, and always bring milk chocolate when we meet up in gatherings. I accept your judgment, Jane. I'll rise above it. But and then Catherine says, Samhain and Yule. I'm a light person, as in I love Samhain, and I like each of them. But I love daylight, and I just love once when the clocks turn and I know, oh, there's that extra hour, it just really gives me a lift. And I'm looking at it now. It seems darker in your place because I could see your window, and now I can't. I still can see daylight. And somebody else says, Bialtana there, that as the light is growing, and one thing for me is when I know we're heading into September, it used to be really difficult for me because it's a place of transition. But once I'd get past the equinox, I'd be fine. I like winter. But knowing I'm going into the dark, it's that transition I find hard because I just love going from dark into light. But then when I'm in winter, I love it.
No, I hear you on that. No, that's cool. Definitely. Yeah, it's a nice journey from that way around.
And one of the things about this pandemic is that because we've all been confined. Well, for me, confined to home and not allowed travel, etc. That everything slowed down for the winter, which is how it would have been for our ancestors. Like Jane says, I love the nesting aspect of the dark months, but rejoice at the longer light of summer and spring. And I do too, Jane. And I think this winter there was an opportunity to do that, that drawing in rather than being out tearing all over the place. That we couldn't be out socializing. So there was that around drawing around the fire that I found really, really really restful, really soothing, and because sometimes, I mean, in the past, I used to find Christmas, even though I don't celebrate it spiritually, but certainly I live in a country where culturally it's there. We can't avoid Christmas where I live. That it was just hard work and pressure, and it seemed to be less this time, and just lovely to be able to draw in and live according to the season, because that's what Druidry is about. But the modern world takes us out of that. So Mikhail says, winter with a crackling fire, a warm blanket, a cat on your lap, and a big cup of hot chocolate. I certainly wouldn't object to that. I think that's good. And then so it's interesting, this different thing, but to be able to live according to the landscape rather than the modern world or the world of busy work just intruding on us all the time. That challenge to be able to live according to the land.
Yeah, to enter into more of that kind of natural time scale.
Exactly. So we've come to the end, and Nick, it's just been a wonderful time talking with you and getting to know you a bit better, because we've had a few conversations, but nothing like this. So it's been really, really enjoyable.
No,
of course, we will. I'll invite you to look at the comments. They'll. There may be some that I didn't get to read all of them, so that to be able to have a look, you may want to respond to some of them yourself. So thank you so much. Don't go away. I'm going to switch you off and just say goodbye to our viewers here. And thank you so much, Nick. It's just been absolutely wonderful.
Just the same. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, okay. Lovely. So thank you all for joining myself and Nick this evening, and for your wonderful comments. It's just lovely that I'm talking to my guest, and then there are all of you either feeding questions or comments, and that is actually having you part of this as well. So it makes these fireside chats so enjoyable. So thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your evening, the rest of your day, if it's morning time or noontime or wherever you are in the world. Let you all be safe and well, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And I'm really pleased because as of Monday this week, we are allowed to move around Ireland, and obviously still keeping distance and all of that, and not allowed indoors, etc. But even to be able to go beyond the bounds of my county, I'm really, really excited about this. So hopefully as we go on the next more weeks that things begin to ease and we have less restrictions and a little bit more freedom to connect and to connect with each other physically. However, in the meantime, it's just so lovely to be able to connect with you online. That is really, really important. So it's been an absolute gift. So slán go fóill until I see you next week. So bye-bye for now.